This week, barriers without walls. Can tech trump the border? How Microsoft came back from the dead, and the magic behind the Avengers. The construction of a wall at the US-Mexican border has dominated American politics since Donald Trump joined the presidential race back in 2015.
We are going to build a great border wall to stop illegal immigration.
It reached its crescendo in December when the now president announced a federal government shutdown over its funding.
We're going to have a shutdown. There's nothing we can do about that.
A record 35 days later, it was finally lifted without any real resolution, and it could easily be back on within weeks. As Trump tweeted out a new design for his wall, now made of steel rather than concrete, the Democrats did offer a potential compromise: to fund a border which used technology rather than physical barriers. But is that feasible? And what would it look like? We sent Nick Queck to Arizona to investigate.
So I'm on my way to the Nogales Border Patrol Station, one of the most technologically advanced control centers on the US-Mexico border. The checkpoint itself processes hundreds of thousands of people every month. But today, I'm going on a ride-along with Agent Dan Hernandez of Border Patrol, whose job it is to keep out those attempting to cross illegally.
Hey, just be advised, I'm going to be around your location. Just take some. We have 262 linear miles of border fence with Mexico, but thousands of miles on the north end on the American side. It's a daunting task. I mean, it's very vast, but with the technology, we're able to get a leg up on our adversaries.
Dan's patrol zone is larger than the state of New Jersey. His sector of duty, Tucson, made almost 40,000 arrests in 2017. Out in this unforgiving terrain, field agents like him go about their daily patrol. Every piece of technology used by them is vital and has to be reliable, even down to the radio comms.
This one does have an encryption that's higher level than most police departments because of national security concerns, because of the criminal element. You have a radio that's equipped with GPS, so if something should happen, I become incapacitated, I can press that button and help will come.
Help will come from here, the Nogales Control Center, where officers can literally see what's going on thanks to a newly updated surveillance system. Their solar-powered integrated fixed towers, also known as IFTs, have long-range video and thermal imaging cameras, coupled with radar to provide high-altitude points of view for watchful eyes back at base.
We do have tracking systems that can detect movement, and it places the camera at the source of the movement. Before we'd see some pixelation, the cameras, just by the remote nature of their placement, it was very difficult to focus far away, but with technology, we've increased the amount of distances we can see and the accuracy of the images. I mean, we're seeing really crisp, sharp images. So we're able to identify things that come over the fence, people that come over the fence, contraband that comes over the fence. And not only that, but it increases safety. If I go out to an area and I don't know what I'm waiting on, or I don't know what's out there, and I run into an assailant with a firearm, you know, it might be a bad situation, but if I know that prior to going in there, I might be able to bring other resources with me.
As well as saving agents time and potentially saving them, the IFTs have helped secure areas where physical barriers are not. Down by Mariposa Wash, fencing has been raised to prevent erosion from water flow, but a person could easily walk through here.
For all intents and purposes, we consider this the fence, the wall. And we don't want people to think that this is the only thing keeping America safe. We have the fencing as a tool, as a another system that we can utilize, but it by no means is supposed to keep anybody in or out. We are the force with the agents in conjunction with the technology, and this being utilized as a tool. That seamless integration of all three components is what makes the border secure. Is having the agents to make an arrest, the wall, and then the technology to supplement both. This could be just a couple of miles, or it could be a couple 100 yards.
5 minutes down the road, Dan shows me a border section where technology is already having to do most of the work in keeping people out. Just looking at this is completely not what I was expecting to see. I guess when people have visions of the wall or you know, the Mexican border, the US-Mexico border.
Like I said, the presence of the fence isn't here. It's not a very powerful fence by any means. It's just meant to keep vehicles out.
Whilst these sticks won't stop determined individuals, I'm told scattered sensors buried in the ground all around the area could catch them off guard. Technology is intended to help agents do their duties, but of course it's not always criminals that get caught in the net. The recent migrant caravan crisis highlighted how many families make the perilous journey in hope for a better life in the US. Many have been torn apart, and some children have died since being detained by authorities. For Dan, he says he's just doing his job.
No matter on what side of the spectrum you fall on, border security is important for the entire country. We're law enforcement officers. We don't dictate the law, we just enforce the laws. So the best way to enforce the laws is by doing it in the most effective and most efficient way.
In 2017, Border Patrol seized over £890,000 or 400,000 kilos of smuggled drugs across the US-Mexico divide.
Drug mules, they try to camouflage themselves into the natural environment, so a lot of times we might not be able to see them, but our cameras can detect body heat, and infrared technology allows us to see them in the middle of the dark night. So our technology is usually one step above the criminal element.
As well as giving agents eyes on from a long range in rural terrain, imposing structures like them have also been used to mitigate crime in urban areas. Nogales is a city divided in two. On the US side, 20,000 residents. On the other, 210,000. So it's up that hill there is an RVSS tower, a remote video surveillance system, which is keeping a constant close eye across this area, which historically has been quite dangerous, but having that eye in the sky has helped improve safety. Or so I thought.
On top of that tin roof there?
Yes, those are rocks.
There's rocks. Those are all rocks thrown at agents. Oh shit, we gotta get out of here. Oh. Yeah, you gotta go.
So we actually just heard a rock land on the top of that garage there. So obviously people up there are throwing stones at us. So we're heading out.
Come on. No one's hurt. Everybody's code for it. Just be advised, it's for safety. This is an area where usually scouts or people involved with human smuggling are perched, and I believe there's one person underneath that tree. So he's a human smuggler scout.
How does that feel? No, there's a guy who's watching you.
It's a constant. They're up there all the time. You get more and more used to it.
While scouts may sit for hours at a time, people crossing the desert move from place to place. So Border Patrol have mobile surveillance trucks to reach remote areas. They're equipped with thermal rangefinders, enabling operators to measure the distance between themselves and people crossing, and laser pointers to give agents in the field wearing night vision goggles a heads up.
One mobile surveillance capability truck can do the work of 6 people or 4 people.
Customs and Border Protection has also begun testing drones with facial recognition cameras to help monitor the border from an even higher vantage point. And Border Patrol is trialling a new mobile-based navigation tool so agents can keep track of each other's live whereabouts.
Border's changing every single day, and with technology or investment in technology allows us to keep up with the trends, with the smugglers, with counteracting any kind of negative action towards the United States at the border.
Whilst Trump's wall continues to be a bone of contention, maintaining the border stretches beyond simply erecting more steel fencing. As I've come to learn, communication tools and surveillance systems play a pivotal role in everyday operations. Whether technology can replace a wall altogether here is something which will be debated in the coming weeks.
Hello and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week that Samsung announced a giant 1 terabyte internal storage chip for smartphones. Apple acknowledged a flaw in its FaceTime software that allowed eavesdropping. And the US Justice Department filed criminal charges against Chinese company Huawei and its chief financial officer. The company and its CFO deny the charges, which include bank fraud, obstruction of justice, and theft of technology. A Facebook research app paid 13 to 35-year-olds for almost complete access to their smartphones. The app's now no longer available on Apple's iOS devices. Apple will now only let Facebook issue programs through its App Store. Previously, the social network could let people install apps without going through Apple. Meanwhile, MIT has made an inflatable pill to monitor the interior of your stomach. The sensor inside the ingestible tablet can potentially monitor problems inside the tummy for up to 30 days. It rapidly absorbs water once inside the body, and to deflate, patients simply drink a calcium solution to shrink the jelly-like pill back to a size that can go out the other end. One more robot story for you from the Italian Institute of Technology. It's unveiled a soft robot which mimics plant tendrils. The plastic tube stretches when electricity passes through it and coils when the voltage is removed. Researchers hope that it could eventually help develop wearable devices that can change shape. Cool.
So I get the jazzy bright yellow headphones.
I'm in Seattle with Amos Miller and his guide dog, Trevor, and I'm about to try Soundscape, a navigation app that uses no visuals, just 3D sounds.
Okay, so I'm hearing voices.
Overlake Transit Centre 235.
The Overlake Transit Centre is 235 metres in that way.
As I turn around, the phone adjusts the stereo sound so that the speech appears to keep coming from the correct direction.
Having it in 3D space in that way makes it really effortless to know where things are. You don't have to do calculations in your head and engage in that. You can just hear where it is.
I know, I really...
This 3D audio is called dynamic binaural sound, and we're now going to use it to find our way to our destination.
Now, instead of giving you step-by-step instructions, the way that Soundscape works is that we'll place an audio beacon, a virtual audio beacon, on the destination so that we can hear where it is and we can decide how to get there.
Beacon 210 metres.
I am hearing it.
Which side are you hearing it?
And it really is quite instinctive. Just head in the rough direction that the sound is coming from.
I think it's in this direction here.
Okay.
So do we just walk in that direction?
So, yes, now we use our mobility skills
Yes.
to pay attention to what's around us.
Right, we don't just walk into that tree
We
there.
don't just walk into that tree, exactly.
Okay.
Now, Trevor, my dog, is pretty good at avoiding trees, so we
Okay.
can just, that. So shall
Well,
we go?
I don't know, dogs and trees.
Yeah.
They kind of, What's incredible if you've never tried dynamic binaural sound is that as I turn my head around, the tapping stays in the direction
Exactly.
that it should be coming from. All right,
Right.
back up, Trevor. Sorry, I overshot.
This is augmented reality in audio, and it's a really great idea. The sound is instinctive and unobtrusive, which means we can have a chat without having to keep stopping and listening to spoken instructions.
Steps.
Right, 3 steps. Here we go. 2, 3.
Okay.
I'm on the flat.
Beacon 20 metres.
Find the door, boy.
And we have arrived. That is, in the true sense of the word, that is a beacon. That is a beacon, an audio beacon that we just followed as if someone was calling us here.
Exactly.
Wow.
So you may be asking, whose headquarters am I at? Which cheeky startup has come up with this idea?
Remember these guys?
Yes, Microsoft. Go on, admit it, you thought they were so last century, didn't you? Paul Allen and Bill Gates' company defined an era with their all-conquering Windows operating system for PCs. But now we all use Google and Apple phones, which have left Microsoft way behind.
Microsoft, by the time the iPhone and other smartphones came along, was very complacent. It had this really successful software business with Office, with Windows. It also had the Xbox, and it really couldn't maneuver the way that a smaller, more focused company kind of could. I think you get an established business doing one thing, you put all your efforts into doing that one thing, and then you struggle to maneuver or anticipate the new technology that's coming along and that may disrupt you.
About 25 years ago, they were on top of the technology industry. And now where are they? Well, it turns out they're back on top of the technology industry.
I'm gonna shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah, never mind Apple. Forget Amazon, Google and Facebook. At the end of November 2018, Microsoft became the most valuable company in the world for the first time since 2002. So where did it all go right? Well, I'd say about here. 5 years ago, Satya Nadella became the boss, and he's managed to turn this supertanker around.
I think the CEO of any company sort of sets the tone and sets the direction.
Steve Clayton is Microsoft's chief storyteller, yet real job title, and he's well versed in explaining Microsoft's resurgence that's seen its value more than triple since Nadella took over. Where this guy caught the wave of personal computing, and this guy missed the wave of portable computing, this guy was determined to catch the next big one, cloud computing.
Because it turns out it's not devices that are mobile, it's people that are mobile. And what the cloud has allowed us to do is to put software anywhere on any device.
Nadella seemed to accept that to move with the times, the company was going to have to do what it had done in the beginning and be guided, at least in part, by the youngsters.
Let me show you a demo of the Hype Zone.
Young employees like Lenin Sivalingam, whose passion for games streaming led him to win the company's 4th internal hackathon in 2017.
So our idea was very simple, right? We're going to run computer vision on these live streams, understand them pixel by pixel, and we're going to find interesting moments and show them to people.
The result is the Hype Zone. It means that fans of the most popular games in the world, for example Fortnite, can use Microsoft's game streaming site Mixer to automatically find the most thrilling battles.
The game actually goes on for 20 to 25 minutes. So the game is sort of boring during the start game, right? And it gets really, really interesting during the end game when there is only like 2 or 3 players left. So we tried to use this technology to identify these super exciting end games.
And any Microsoft employee with an idea can come to this space, the garage, to hack, to build, and to work on new ideas. And is there anywhere cooler than a garage? Well, yes, that'll be the Batcave.
And I'm looking at a visualization of global earthquakes over the last 50 years or so.
Microsoft changed the way we worked once with Windows, and here is one possible workspace of the future. Using its augmented reality headset HoloLens, this is a glimpse at how our computing workspace may one day be all of our physical space.
So today we have joining us some of my teammates, Peter and Jinha. Jinha is in New York.
Jinha in New York, hi.
Hi.
And there's Peter.
Yeah, from San Francisco. How's it going, Spencer?
Both of you.
And they can see us too. This is Spatial, a prototype environment where people can appear to be in the same room and share the same images, videos, and even 3D models.
So you have a big model of Mars here.
Oh my goodness.
All this image.
Amazing though this is, it might seem a bit too futuristic right now, but I wonder how futuristic those early graphical user interfaces like Windows seemed way back in the 80s. Whichever way you look at it, Microsoft seems to be thinking differently to its previous incarnation.
It is really interesting the difference that a CEO makes to even a massive company like this. Okay, the previous CEO, Steve Ballmer, once called open source a cancer. And yet here we are with a company that is embracing all things open source, actively embracing other people's ideas, other people's software. And the numbers don't lie. Microsoft is back in the game.
It's February, and that means it's awards season. And if there's one award that we really love here at Click, it's the one for Best Visual Effects.
Father's heart in you.
Last year we talked to the visual effects teams behind all the most amazing looking movies, and for the next 4 weeks we're going to be speaking to some of the biggest names in the industry as they tell us how they made some of the biggest films of the past year. And frankly, no movie was bigger than Avengers: Infinity War. So big, in fact, that it needed several effects houses to work on individual sequences within the film in order to bring Earth's mightiest heroes to life.
In time, you will know what it's like to lose. To feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail all the same.
I think it's 3,500 VFX shots, which is a huge number for any film.
Hear me and rejoice.
It was a major sequence, so it's the part of the film where Ebony Moore comes down to try and get the time stone from Doctor Strange. We have a capture lab here who collect data for us and do motion capture and all that sort of thing. And they went out to Greenwich Village, and I think they pretty much photographed all of it. In terms of the actual set itself, they were acting either on the stage at Pinewood, Atlanta, so that was mainly blue screens. The brief was that it was war-torn, and trees were on fire, and so all the trees in Atlanta had their leaves on them. So everything that's close up and burning has been replaced in CG, so yeah, it's fairly immersive. Because we were on the show fairly early in the pre-production phase, a lot of the designs for the suits were still really only in a sort of two-dimensional form. So concept artists from Marvel had worked those up, and part of our brief was to try to realise them in CG and realise them in terms of motion as well, how they actually would move and work. So Iron Man suit was a big part of that. It's nanotech. Robert Downey Jr. had quite a bit of input into how that worked. So it has a couple of cords that you pull, and the suit tightens, and then allows the nanotech to kind of spread out over it, which was his idea. Spider-Man has got his own problems as a character because he's so bendy, and I think quite often the dislocations in his anatomy that would occur if you got into that kind of position are quite often hidden artfully in lighting.
Your powers are quaint.
A lot of the effects are defined by the story and the storyboards, so we kind of hone down on what happened to bricks and making little darts out of bricks that fly. We always try to look for reference, and he's an alien, so hard to find reference of him. But then you have a clear idea of what his character is going to be. He's old and quite distinguished, and he's a wizard. So we looked at distinguished-looking English actors like Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, and took cues off their hair, what does their skin look like, and then try and infuse some of that character and posturing into the character.
He exhausts me. Bring me the stone.
Don't forget, we are all over social media. You'll find us on Facebook, on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, where we live at BBC Click. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you soon.